close your eyes. Let the world outside this room dissolve into the mist. You are sitting in a high-backed velvet chair, deep within the heart of a castle that has forgotten its own age. Outside, the sky is a bruised purple, and the rain is relentless, lashing against the tall, arched windows like someone trying to get in. But here inside, the air smells of old paper, cedarwood, and the faint, sweet smoke of a dying fire. You aren't alone here. Not really. The shadows in the corner of the room seem to lean in, as if they have been waiting 200 years for someone to finally listen. They say this castle was not just built, it was summoned. In the late 1700s, a man known only as the architect of shadows arrived at this very cliffside. He did not carry blueprints or heavy stone-cutting tools. Instead, he carried a small silver bell and a journal bound in leather that felt like silk. The locals in the village below watched him through iron telescopes. They saw him standing on the edge of the cliff during the most violent storms, his arms outstretched, shouting into the wind. Why build a fortress where the wind screams the loudest? Because the architect knew a secret that we have forgotten. Stone has a memory. He believed that if you built a room with the perfect proportions, at the exact angle of the North Star, the walls would trap the echoes of every dream ever dreamt within them. He spent 7 years in total silence, laying the foundation by hand. He did not use cement. He used the crushing weight of the mountain itself to lock the rocks together. But as the first tower pierced the clouds, the villagers noticed something chilling. The architect began to talk to the walls. He would whisper into the cracks of the fireplace, and if the stories are true, the fire would whisper back. Tonight, you are sitting in the very room where he spent his final night. Look at the shadows dancing on the ceiling. Do they look like flickering light to you? Or do they look like figures moving just beyond the edge of your vision? The architect vanished before the sun rose on the day the castle was finished. He left his silver bell on this very table, but the journal that contained the map to the Room of Echoes, was gone. Some say he became part of the walls themselves. Others say he is still here, walking the dark corridors, making sure the rain never stops. Listen closely to the thunder. Can you hear the rhythm? It is not just a storm, it is a knock, and it is coming from beneath the floorboards. That slow, heavy thud coming from beneath the floor. Most people would call it the settling of old wood or the wind trapped in the cellar. But you and I, we know better. 1791, the local blacksmith was called to the castle to fix a broken iron gate. He was a brave man, used to the heat of the forge and the weight of a hammer. But when he stepped into this very hallway, he stopped dead in his tracks. He didn't see a ghost. He didn't see a monster. He saw the architect sitting on the floor, his ear pressed against the cold stone, whispering. Not yet, the architect had said to the ground. The song is not finished. Smith ran back to the village, claiming the architect had built a second castle directly underneath the first one, an inverted fortress reaching deep into the belly of the mountain. He called it the Echo Chamber. Someone build a home for shadows. The legend says the architect lost his daughter to a fever when she was only 10 years old. He didn't want to bury her in the cold earth. He wanted to build a place where her voice would never fade away. He believed that if he used singing stone, a rare rock found only in the deepest caves, the walls would play back her laughter forever. It's a catch with singing stone. It doesn't just record the happy memories, it records everything. The screams of the wind, the crying of the lonely, and the secrets people whisper when they think no one is listening. Down at the rug beneath your feet, beneath the heavy wool and the dust of 2 centuries, there is a trapdoor. It has no handle. It has no keyhole. The villagers say it only opens when the rain hits the glass in a specific pattern, a code written by the clouds themselves. The rain is falling in a strange, steady beat. 1, 2, 3, pause, then again. 1, 2, 3, pause. The thumping from below has stopped. The silence is actually louder than the storm, isn't it? It feels like the entire castle is holding its breath, waiting for you to notice that the rug in the center of the room has shifted. Just an inch. Architect didn't vanish into thin air. He went down there to find his daughter's voice, and he forgot how to climb back out. Or perhaps he simply didn't want to. Go down there. If you knew you could hear the voice of someone you lost, would you lift the door? Before you answer, remember this. Once you hear the echoes of the echo chamber, the silence of the real world will never be enough for you again. Did you see that? The candle on the mantel. Leave the mystery of the floorboards for a moment. Step out into the hallway. The stones here are cold, but the air feels heavy, like it is thick with invisible dust. Walking toward the west wing. Most people would turn back here. The candles in the wall sconces are not lit by fire. They glow with a pale blue light that seems to come from the salt in the sea. This is the way to the Library of Whispers. The architect of shadows built this room. He did not use wood for the shelves. He used the bones of ancient trees that had survived 1,000 years of winter. He said that only a tree that had seen a millennium of history was strong enough to hold the weight of the truth. Push open the double doors. Look up. The ceiling is so high it is lost in the darkness. There are 10,000 books here, stacked from the floor to the shadows above. But if you look closely at the spines, you will notice something strange. There are no titles, no names, no dates. Researchers say that if you pull a book from the shelf, the pages will be blank. At first, if you sit in the velvet chair and wait, the ink begins to rise from the paper like smoke. It forms words not in English or Latin or any language you have studied in school. It writes in the language of your own thoughts. 1812. A young scholar tried to steal one of these books. He thought he could sell the magic paper for a fortune. He crept in at midnight, stuffed a small leather volume into his coat, and ran. Get far. By the time he reached the village at the bottom of the hill, the book had grown so heavy he could no longer carry it. He said it felt like he was carrying the weight of 100 men. Opened it to see why it was so heavy. He didn't find gold or spells. He found his own life story. Every secret he had ever kept, every lie he had ever told, was written there in dark, wet ink, and the book was still writing. It was scratching out his future, page by page, right before his eyes. Is the danger of this room. The books don't just tell stories, they listen to them. To the silence around us now. Do you hear that? It sounds like 1,000 tiny insects, doesn't it? But it isn't insects. It is the sound of 10,000 pens scratching against paper. The library is writing about you right now. It is recording the way you breathe, the way your heart beats faster when the wind hits the glass, and the way you wonder what is behind the locked door at the end of the hall. Tech believed that a man's life is just a story told by a ghost. And in this library, the ghosts never stop writing. Careful which shelf you touch. Some stories are better left unread, especially the ones that haven't happened yet. Did you hear that? A book just fell off the shelf in the back of the room. It landed with a heavy thud. And the door we just came through, don't panic about the locked door. In this castle, a door only locks when it wants you to pay attention to what is inside, rather than what is behind you. That fell from the shelf is lying open on the floor. Don't pick it up, just look. The ink is still wet, and it points toward the very back of the library, to a wall covered in thick purple ivy that has grown through the stone. That ivy is the entrance to the room of echoes. What the blacksmith said about the second castle built beneath our feet. This is where the two worlds meet. The architect spent 4 years perfecting this single room. He didn't use candles here. Instead, he lined the walls with singing stone rocks that glow with a soft, pulsing light every time a sound is made. Walk inside, your footsteps sound different. They don't just clack on the floor, they ring like a bell. 1 step, a silver chime, 2 steps, a golden hum. It's where the architect brought his daughter's favorite toys, her small wooden chairs, and her silk ribbons. He believed that if the room was quiet enough, the stones would eventually get lonely and start playing back the sounds of the past. In the center of this room for 300 nights without speaking a single word. He waited in total darkness. On a night just like this one, when the rain was tapping a secret code against the mountain, he heard it. It wasn't a ghost scream. It wasn't a scary moan. It was the sound of a small girl humming a lullaby. It was coming from the walls themselves. The stones were breathing her song back into the air. Reached out to touch the glowing wall. The architect realized something heartbreaking. The room wasn't just a recorder, it was a mirror. The stones didn't just play back the past, they showed you what you wanted to see most. And if you stayed too long, you would forget which side of the wall was real. The wall in front of you now. The blue light is pulsing in time with your own breathing. Can you see the faint outline of a door in the stone? It has no hinges. It has no handle. It is made entirely of sound. Villagers say that the architect eventually walked into the wall. He became a vibration. He became the very hum that you hear in your ears right now when the room gets too quiet. And beneath the humming, there is a second sound. It's a metallic scraping. Or bell. The one the architect left on the table in the first room. It's ringing. But we are the only ones in the West Wing. The bell is ringing. It means someone or something has just entered the castle. The silver bell continues to ring. 1, 2, 3 times. It is a lonely sound. It carries through the hollow hallways, bouncing off the stone arches and sliding under the heavy oak doors. You stand frozen in the room of echoes. You are miles away from the front gate, yet the sound feels like it is right behind your shoulder. 1847. A traveler arrived at the castle during a storm much worse than this one. He didn't knock. He didn't call out. He simply walked through the heavy iron doors as if they were made of smoke. Villagers called him the visitor. He wore a suit of velvet so dark it looked like a hole in the air, and his face was covered by a mask made of polished iron. No eyes, no mouth, just a smooth, silver surface that reflected the flickering candlelight. Come for the gold. He didn't come for the books. He came for the architect's silver bell. The bell wasn't just a decoration. The architect had forged it using a piece of a fallen star. He believed that the sound of the bell was the only thing that could wake up the castle and tell it that the master had returned. Walk back toward the main hall. The air grows colder. You can see your own breath turning into white mist in front of you. The blue light from the singing stones is fading, replaced by the orange glow of the fireplace in the distance. Something is different. The fire isn't crackling anymore. It is burning in total silence, the flames licking the wood without making a single sound. Standing by the hearth is a figure. He is tall, dressed in that same dark velvet, his back turned to you. On the table next to him sits the silver bell. It is perfectly still now. The visitor reaches out a gloved hand and touches the rim of the bell. Turn around, but he speaks. His voice doesn't come from his throat. It sounds like it is coming from the walls, the floor, and the ceiling all at once. Reading the books, he whispers. You have been listening to the echoes. But do you know the price of knowing a secret? Slowly begins to turn. You want to run, but your feet feel like they have turned into the very stone you are standing on. The iron mask reflects the firelight, making it look like his face is made of liquid gold. Reaches for the edge of the mask. He is going to show you what is underneath. He is going to show you the face of the man who never left the castle. Just as his fingers touch the metal, the wind outside gives one final, violent scream, and every single candle in the castle goes out at once. In total, the darkness is not cold. It feels like a thick, soft blanket. And there, in the pitch black, waiting for a movement or a breath. But the visitor is gone. The heavy, metallic weight of the mask hitting the floor was the last sound he made. When you finally find a match and strike it, the small flame reveals an empty room. The bell is still on the table. The iron mask is gone. The chair is empty. Realize then that the visitor was never a person at all. He was the last echo of the architect, a memory so strong that the castle couldn't help but play it back one last time. He didn't come to hurt you. He came to see if the castle was still being cared for. He came to see if someone was still listening to the stories. Go over to the window. The storm has finally grown tired. The violent thunder has turned into a gentle, rhythmic patter against the stone. The sky is no longer a bruised purple. It is turning a soft, misty gray. The first light of morning is miles away, but you can feel it coming. Turn to your velvet chair by the fire. The embers are glowing a deep, comforting red. The heat feels good against your skin. Of echoes, the library of whispers, the architect, they are all part of the stone now. And you are part of it too. You have become the keeper of this night. Sit there, your eyes grow heavy. The sound of the rain is like a lullaby, repeating the same two words over and over. Sleep now. Sleep now. The castle is safe. The doors are locked. The fires are low. And the shadows have retreated back into the corners where they belong. There are no more secrets to find tonight. The books in the library have finished writing your chapter for today. The ink is dry. The pages are closed. The fire. Crack, sparkle, hiss. Listen to your breath. It is slow. It is steady. It is as deep as the foundations of this mountain. The story of the architect has ended, but the castle will be here when you wake up. It has stood for 200 years, and it will stand for 200 more. You are protected by these walls. You are wrapped in the silence of the stone. It's just a whisper now. The fire is just a glow. Everything is exactly as it should be. Right? The pens in this ancient library. Remember that you are now part of this castle's history. If you find peace within these stone walls, consider subscribing to our chronicles. It ensures the fire stays lit and the gates stay open for your next visit. And if you're feeling the weight of the rain,